See, if couple about a month ago, the sporting gods rocked up to Sam and said, basically, here's like you're gonna get a ton of luck. Would you like to share it with anyone? And Sam looked at Arsenal, looked at the Rams, and said, "Nah,
Nah, fuck it.
no." So his team then goes and wins a Premier League, makes a Champions League final, and then the Rams sign Aaron fucking Donald.
I
Miles Garrett.
might
That's
Miles
Miles
Garrett
Garrett.
and might get Aaron Donald back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might get out. Yeah. So Sam, like, do you want to share any of this luck with anybody else, please? At some point, let us have some fun for once.
You've had years of fun as a Man City fan. You had 10 years of it and 20 trophies. I think you can sit back and let other people have some fun. Your college team's won a natty. Like, I think you
And the
can.
basketball team has also done that. But see, the thing is, Sam, is that your enjoyment comes at my expense, and I don't like that. Um, because well, what your team wins a Premier League title, that means my team doesn't. Your team makes a Champions League final, and my team didn't. Although, to be fair, that expense didn't come at my expense.
No,
PSG
I was
getting
gonna say you could have made that final.
and then you getting Miles Garrett means like because we're in the same conference as you, we then have to face Miles Garrett.
Feel for Gary. He has to face him twice.
No wonder he's not here.
You've got to be thinking right now the Arizona Cardinals have got to be just like yeah, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. Um, they're going to be pushing for some sort of NFL realignment at some point because they just don't they can't like it where they're at this moment in time.
Mm.
They're the Purdue of the NFC West.
It is quite funny though, because if you think about it, it's like the Seahawks won the NFC Championship and went on to win the Super Bowl. So what did the Rams do as a well, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. Go and get the best defensive player in the league and just put him on your team.
Oh, it's disgusting work, man. It's disgusting work.
Mhm.
However, obviously, like, um, I did hear that it was your wonderful wife's birthday on Monday, which happy birthday to your wonderful wife. Um, for Monday, I did hear that there was a dinner, then the trade got announced, and there was like, you must have ate that meal so fast because you made it onto hurdle the line.
To be honest, the meal started at 5:30, so it was never in doubt that I was going to be back. It was just whether I just thought I'd miss it, but you can't miss a massive trade like that.
I was gonna say if that don't give you the juice to be like, I'm so ready to talk about the NFL right
Yeah.
now, nothing will. Um, but as tends to be the case when prior to us actually getting going, I think we need to actually switch back to, the sport that we're here to talk about, that is college football, not the National Football League. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the College Football UK podcast, brought to you by the AEW Network. I am your host, Fletch, and as always, I am joined by two wonderful, and do you know what I haven't said in a while? Stunning co-hosts, um, Sam and Nick. Gents, I don't get. I think don't really need to ask how Sam is again. But Nick, how are you this week? And Sam, how are you?
Well,
um,
yeah.
Go on, Sam. Go on.
I was
You
just going to say,
finish.
if I was going based upon the weekend, not very good. But then obviously Monday made up for it 10 times fold. So yeah, I'll leave it over to Nick because we've already spoken about why I'm so happy.
Well, funnily enough, I was having a chat with Sam on social media today that I am getting so sick and tired of this bitching, toing and froing Like we can have our repertoire, and we can have our little digs, and it means nothing to each other because it's all just harmless fun.
Yeah.
But the literal vitriol that is on social media at the moment of my team's better than your team. Oh, well, my team did this. Well, my team got more people at the parade. No, because your parade had people that were really at the Liverpool parade, and it's just Photoshop. It's like, oh, God, and some guy put a picture of like Arsenal's golden mini Premier League trophy that they got for being undefeated,
Yeah.
and said, "Oh, nobody will ever get one of these." And it's like, actually, somebody may get another one. You've got the first one, and you will always have the first one, but somebody else can get one. And then I went on to the Centurions. I said, well, there is this argument that technically the Centurion season could be considered a bigger a bigger achievement. Both have their merits, and both, if you want to talk it out sensibly, I can do. And it was just all there's like 100 Arsenal fans having a go at me because I dare to say that is unacceptable, and it's just like, come on. And it's like Sam said, it's just a dick measuring contest on Twitter at the moment. I
So-
just can't be arsed with it.
Well, all I'm going to say is, Nick, my allegiances are very, 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 very similar to yours in this sport.
I know.
Of this one, blow the horn, do the Avengers Assemble, newsreaders assemble if you're more anchorman like I am. I'll come to your rescue. I'll scrap people with you, Nick.
Yes.
On Twitter, down an alleyway in the Northern Quarter, I've got you back, man.
Thank you, thank you. I thought I'd go down the intellectual route, but obviously I forgot that I was on Twitter, and they don't do intellectual on. They don't do intellectual on Twitter. It's all bitching. So, but
Well,
yeah.
I came fresh the other night the other night. I didn't get involved. I watched it happen. College football Twitter versus Europe Twitter. And when I say Europe Twitter, yes, I just mean simply the continent Twitter. So college football fans having a go at Europeans for being European. Europeans having a go at college football Twitter for being American. And that was fun. And the AAW_CFB account was just there, like, can't we all just get along? We're in the middle of this. The Americans who were like, the Europeans will never understand this about college football. And I'm like, we do. And then Europeans are just like, yeah, well, college football shit. And I'm again, AAW CFB is just like, no, it's not. Don't use that. So yeah, it's not the platform. I remember saying this to Sam a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? I was like, if you want intelligent discussion, Twitter is not the place you want to go for that one.
No, it's not.
Twitter is just, as I've posted multiple times, all Twitter is it's just basically rage baiters, clip farmers, and trolls. That's all it is.
Whoa. There's also very, very, very naked women on there. There's a lot of that as well.
There is that side.
I wouldn't know. I don't go looking at that.
Yeah, it's just since it became X, it's become a really toxic place, unfortunately.
I'll obviously not exactly the biggest fan of the current direction that platform is going in, but I think I've been very, very lucky as a whole not to really get too much toxicity out of the app. All I see is everybody else getting called the hard R, and all this crap. But like I don't get involved in that sort of stuff. So my Twitter is relatively sane and safe. Obviously, it still comes up every now and again, but I'll give it this: some of the most toxic interactions I ever had that were random, like just totally random, came from pre-takeover, which.
Yeah, I mean, being an Arsenal fan and following all of that, there is a lot of attack and rage bait of Arsenal fans because Arsenal fans don't know how to understand the difference of just ignore it.
I think I'll say this, and this is the last thing I'll say. I think a lot of that app doesn't do banter. a banter is a personal attack. It's not a joke. It's not a laugh. It's not. I know that I can say something to you, Sam. You can say something to me, and we'll laugh it off because I know you're joking. You know I'm joking. We know there's no malicious intent in here, but I just think I see that happen. Someone's made something that's generally clearly a joke, and it's just met by vitriol because other person thinks it's a personal attack rather than banter, and I can't stand it. Anyway, with that being said, we'll get back onto the episode. It's College Football UK podcast, and today we're doing a mailbag. We've got 5 questions that have been submitted. I'm going to pose them to my panel of Sam and Nick and myself. We'll just chat through some of the questions that have been submitted. Before we do that, don't forget to follow AAW_CFB on social media. Twitter and Instagram are where we're the most active. TikTok, we post the odd clip of the podcast. Excuse me. And I believe there's a Facebook page. I say I believe there is one because I manage it. But I don't touch that app whatsoever. Very, very rarely. So there's very little that goes on there. But please follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We try and share stuff. We try and get some conversations going. We'd love to hear from you. And we've got a free Discord server where Nick's in there, Sam's in there, Gary's in there, Adam's in there. Heard all the line guys are generally in there. Most other guys are. There's a lot of us from the AW network who are in there. We run a lot of stuff. We love talking about a variety of different things. Discord gives us the opportunity to have these conversations with you directly with us. So you can argue with us. You can have banter with us. You can just discuss some of the topics that come up on a day-to-day basis in all of sports and life, except religion and politics. Please don't bring that into the group. But everything else you can do. Love Island, not my thing, but you'll find someone in there who'll talk about it with you. Big Brother, anything like that as well. So please do join. With that being said, I think it's time we head to Nick's news.
Okay. Right. Where's Gary with his when you need him? Right. Okay. This today, as we record it Wednesday, Nick Saban was on Capitol Hill facing several senators, pleading for them to bring order to a system that needs badly fixing, according to him. I want to get this right, so I'm just going to flip to the article, and what he says is Congress do not need to micromanage college athletics. Congress does need to fix the mess in courts and create a national framework so that people inside college sports can enforce fair rules. Without that legal certainty, every rule becomes another lawsuit, every standard becomes another risk, and the system keeps drifting towards a professional model. Obviously, this ties in with the bill that Senator Cruz has created, and I don't like him either. Yeah, so there's a lot of problems. The Big Ten and the SEC do not support this bill. They say that there's critical issues unresolved, but they don't say what the issues are. So ultimately, at the moment, the future of college football is still up in the air because we don't know what's happening with it. Personally, I would like to see all the guys in suits and the senators and everything else go away. We don't need you. This goes back to what we were saying last week. You need to put the good of the game first. If you put the good of the game first before anything, it should solve itself. It's not that hard, but you've got to be willing to put what's best for the game ahead of anything else. And until that, you're still going to have problems at the very top that will continue to cascade downwards. Obviously, as the saying goes, shit travels down. NC State versus Virginia was supposed to be in Brazil in week 0. We weren't going to be there because we decided to go to Dublin instead.
Yeah.
If you'd said you wanted someone in Rio, I would have said let Sam go because I'm sure Sam would have loved a week in Rio de Janeiro.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, that's now back in Virginia. The Cavaliers will play at home. It's a home and home series anyway. The intention is still that will be played on week 0, but it does not count towards conference scores. But yeah. Brendan Sorsby waits for the judge on this injunction after a 2-hour hearing on Monday. The judge technically could rule any time now. Knowing our luck, he will rule 10 minutes after we've finished our pod. So by the time this comes out, it'll be out of date. It's still the situation that, he would like to play college football this year. The NCAA have banned him. He's trying to get an injunction to stop them banning him. If the banning stays, then he's got time to get into the NFL supplemental draft, which then moves me on to Todd Monken at the Browns. We know the Browns love a QB, but they said that they won't go after Sorsby. I can hear an echo now. They won't go after Sorsby if he enters the supplemental draft. Well, the Browns have got more quarterbacks than they know what to do with. So it's not as if they need to go for Sorsby anyway. And if you're not going to be going for him, then why do you need to say anything? Don't be an asshole about it. It's none of your business who chooses to draft Sorsby if he does go to the supplemental draft. So if the Browns aren't going to be taking him, what business is it of Monken to actually open his? Because all he's doing is making it worse for him trying to get through the supplemental draft. Just shut your pie hole and get on with it. Concentrate on the Browns, who've now got a big gaping hole on their defensive side of the ball, which Jared Verse will fill half of that hole, but he's no Myles Garrett. So yeah, that's what I've got going on in this week's. A lot of a lot of crowing from different people on different subjects, and great week.
Yeah, it's a lot. I've got a quick well, I know we've kind of brought it up already in previous episodes, but what do you think is the appropriate? Well, actually, let me ask this question first. What do you think is the likelihood that Brendan Sorsby gets to play college football in the next 12 months, or if in one of the next 2 seasons?
I think it's highly unlikely, even though I would try and accommodate him. I think it's highly unlikely. I think the NCAA their ban will stay, and he will have to enter the supplemental draft. If it was me, I would try and, I've said this before, I'd try and cater for both parties, and I'd say, look, you've redshirt this year, and you can redshirt on mental health grounds, and you don't play this year, and then you can have your final year next year. That's, to me, how I would do it, because I don't agree with all the gambling and everything that's going on in the sport, and how every ad break is six different gambling companies pumping stats. And it's not just college football or the NFL. We have that problem at home with the amount of betting companies trying to get you to bet on football and what have you. So the industry is full of it. So you cannot, if someone picks up a mental health disorder based on gambling, you can't just wash your hands of him and say, well, you broke the rules, that's it. So I do think I do think the NCAA have blood on their hands. I do think they haven't helped the situation, but the rules are the rules. So I think there is a grey area in the middle that we can maybe find find a home for Sorsby in. But me personally, I think he'll end up in the draft.
Yeah, I think as far as I see it, I think there's a couple of different sides to it that both have merit. Now, I know you kind of touched on it there, Nick, but gambling addiction is a real problem, a real mental health problem, and
Yeah,
should be addressed. And kudos to him for whatever the intention was behind going to rehab, rehabilitating himself, and seeking that help. He has sought that help to help him with his real problem. That is commendable and for again. Whatever the outcome is, whatever the reasoning was, some may argue that he did it to try and get ahead of it. I'm not playing that game, but it's great that he's gone and sought help. I mean, it needs to be you need to have that element of looking at him and saying he looks up in the stadium and sees FanDuel everywhere or DraftKings everywhere. When he goes on social media and it's FanDuel and it's DraftKings and it's I can't tell you all the different US betting services, so I'm not even going to try to. They're the two main ones that I know, and I'm sticking to it. I know Bet365 operate in the States for a good chunk, for a large portion of it. It's constantly thrown in his face at every turn and every player's face. It's constantly thrown in them. There needs to be a level of empathy in that sense, but then there's also like for whatever bet he put on, it was on his own team when he was at Indiana, and that's the one betting rule. As much as no matter what sports league in the world, no matter what stance they have on gambling, some will allow players to gamble in a variety of different ways. The one thing you can't do is gamble on your own team or gamble on your own league and that kind of thing. And that's the number one thing that's consistent. And I think he needs to see something for that. I think you can't just let that slide that he gambled on his own team.
even though
But
he was redshirted
even though he
and
was
had no control over what went on. It's not like he was in the game.
consider it a bit like, I don't know, is it a bit like insider trading? So like, and I think I brought this up slightly before. Now, if I turn around to you and say, like, for example, you're in the room for the offensive meeting, right? I'm going to just paint you this picture. You're in the room for the offensive meeting. You're playing, it's Notre Dame, you're playing Pitt at the weekend, and Marcus Freeman or whoever stands up at the front, and they're just like, the one thing we know about USC right now is that what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and get into we want to get into the red zone anyway, but we're not trying to um light their asses up. We're going to play tough physical football and slowly move down the field. That's how we know we're going to beat them. That's the primary way we're going to beat them. So what we're going to do, our first drive on the field, we're going to pummel the ball in the faces, get within the 5, and then punch it in from the 5. Just as I'm not in offensive meetings. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
I
that's
get you.
exactly what they'll say. And you know for a fact that your RB2 is the guy that's going to be the guy to punch it in from the 5. They're not handing it to your RB1 inside the 5-yard line. They're handing it to the RB2, no matter what. So what you can confidently do there is go onto a betting app and say, well, I'm going to put RB2 down, first touchdown scorer, or first Notre Dame touchdown scorer, or to definitely get a touchdown at some point in the game, because you know that the game plan is set up for RB2 essentially to get a touchdown in this game. This is just one random example that I'm kind of pulling out of my ass a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you know that the way you're going to attack Pitt is that your slot receiver matches up really well against their slot corner. And you're going to try and put them in as many man coverage situations as you can. So the slot corner beats it. So a lot of the targets are going to go to the slot corner. So you can go for the over under on slot receptions or yardage up for your slot receiver. And I think there are things
you can also pass that information on to family members or to
yeah.
friends who put the bet on themselves. That is, to me, that's just as bad as doing it yourself. And
No, I
technically,
agree.
that's not breaking any rules because you're not doing the betting, but you're passing on the information. So that's just as bad. But that goes unpunished.
No, and I think again, you need to be that also does need to be punished. I'm not going to let that one. I'm not letting that one slide or saying that that one doesn't matter either. That one needs to be looked at. Feeding information, getting other people to essentially put bets on for you needs to be looked at. There is the rule that you can't that or the rule is there you can't get other people to put bets on for you. That also needs to be managed. So I think there are ways in which you can benefit from betting. Now, I'm not bothered if you've got. I am bothered, but if you've got a genuine gambling addiction and you're a wide receiver and you bet on yourself to get under on targets or receptions and you drop a couple of passes in a game and you just miss out on the under and you just miss out on the over. Now that is one where you're like you should probably never touch a football. You should never touch a field
Yeah.
again. I wouldn't even I wouldn't even say play in the UFL. You're going to be coaching kids in a park and telling people what you could have been if you didn't get in trouble. Um, if what you do can genuinely influence the output of a game, yeah, never touch a field again. You just can't let that slide. I just think that there needs to be some sort of punishment that does include. So I think with you, it's we won't let you play this year, but we'll let you redshirt and you can get the 2026 season out the way. Um, therefore he gets a punishment, but also there is empathy for the fact that he's got ahead of the situation and gone to rehab to fix it. It's a mental health problem that the NCAA and all these different conferences are not helping. Yeah, and then you kind of go from there and take it, but it's a weird situation, I think, to be in.
Yeah.
And that's just my 2 pence on it. I mean, Sam, you might
No,
disagree.
I agree. I agree. I don't. I've never hidden the fact
Yeah,
that what he's done is wrong. I've just tried to
yeah,
understand when the flow of gambling ads and gamble and you know every program is sponsored by a gambling company now.
yeah,
I mean, looking at the NFL owners can own a percentage of gambling companies now. You know, and the NFL was staunchly against gambling, and we are not going to get involved until they saw how much money it was worth in the billions and went, actually, this might be a good idea. And sure enough, now the floodgates have opened. So, you know, I kind of see what Sorsby's saying when the NCAA do have a double standard here that they are pushing gambling down the throats of everybody, but then they're saying, "Oh well, you touch a bet and you're done." You know,
yeah.
that's that's like saying, "There's a naked woman, don't look at her." Sorry, every man and every red-blooded man is going to look. Whether that's just the natural part of life.
Well, lucky for me, I'm a blue-blooded male, so
Oh,
I say that. To be fair, I've got headphones on. Mrs. Fletch can't hear that one anyway, so I'll be fine. But Sam, I realise no, this has been a lot of me and Nick going back and forth. Do you want to weigh in on anything on this? I don't want to leave you out. If you did have something to say,
No, I mean it's just. I think at the end of the day, it's just they've got to come to a decision fast, and I think it's they've got to find. They'll for me they've just got to find the balance between making sure they set an example for the future, especially with the amount of nil involved now, but also take into consideration the fact that this is still you've still got to remember this is a what 21-year-old kid. He's going to make mistakes,
yeah,
and you need to have are you really going to prevent him from potentially ruining his life just because he made some stupid mistakes when he was at school? Like, I think people seem to forget that you've got to remember the maturity levels of these kids. Like, they're going to make mistakes, they're going to do stupid stuff, and actually, do we really need to be, stopping him from making a career of his and making a bettering himself out of the situation rather than, finding a way to just destroy this kid and set an example. So I think the best option would probably be similar to what they did with Calvin Ridley in the NFL, is have him sit a year, not allow him to play, and then he can come back next year.
Yeah, absolutely fair. Before we get on to the mailbag, postman's bin, got some letters. I do have, because there is no on this week in college football history this week, at least not in my notes. What I do have for you both, gents, is a trivia question. Fletcher's trivia of the week's back. Nick, please stop looking so thrilled.
I can't wait.
So my Fletcher trivia of the week: which college football rivalry in the FBS has been played the most times?
Texas, Oklahoma.
Nope.
Army, Navy.
Army, Navy, nope.
Notre Dame, USC.
Nope. Not Notre Dame, USC. I'll give you both a clue.
Alabama, Auburn.
Not Alabama, Auburn. Well, that Alabama, Auburn is not the game, but Auburn is involved in the second longest in the FBS, or the game with the second most played.
Oh, who is Auburn? It's not something obvious like Michigan, Ohio State, is it?
No. You think, by the way, I'll give you a kind of clue on this one, especially to be fair, both of them come with the actual number one in this one. And most of them, to be fair, if they've been being played for that long, these games will have started in the 1880s, 1890s, right? Schools like Auburn were not playing schools like Michigan because it wasn't feasible to travel that far. So you're talking schools that are a bit closer in proximity.
Boston College.
Nope.
Is it two colleges within one city/state?
No.
I'm more thinking of like a Michigan State sort of situation or something.
No, that's up there in as one of the most played.
I give in.
So
to move this along, I give in.
Sam, do you give in?
Yeah.
The most played FBS rivalry of all time is Minnesota-Wisconsin for the Paul Bunyan's Axe Trophy. It's been played 135 times. First time in 1890 it was played. The second most, which involves Auburn, was Georgia-Auburn, which is dubbed the Deep South's oldest rivalry. That was first played in 1892, last played in 2025. One interesting thing was that there is one up here, there are not very many FBS ones in like the top 10. Because if you think the oldest programs tend to be Ivy League programs, other than Rutgers now, which is now a Big Ten team, but you're talking Yale, Princeton, Harvard, those kind of schools that did have programs in like the 1860s, 1870s. So Lafayette Lehigh is the number one played of all time. First game in 1884, played 161 times since then. Yale and Princeton is next up. They're both in the Ivy League, obviously. First played in 1873. Yale Harvard is the third, and that is quite an intense rivalry, been played since 1875. The longest, most played now non-conference rivalry, and I did bring this question. I slightly fluffed the question when I asked it, but it was fine. It still made a good question. It was going to be the longest or most played non-conference rivalry, which is Oregon State. It was a conference rivalry for a long time, but now it is not. Moving on to the mailbag, like I said, the mailman has been. For those of you who were fans of Blues Clues as a child, the post is here. The post is here. The letters have come from far and near, and all year long they make us want to cheer. Question number one.
Sorry.
Question number
I
one.
dropped my phone.
New question number one. What was that sound? If you could take one tradition from another school, which one would it be and why? Now, we do have an episode on this general thing coming up in the next few weeks, so we're not going to get too in depth on this one. Submitted by Jimmy from the Canes across the pond, and also in part slightly reworded version of the question from Egg, our former co-host Egg. Like I say, we've got this episode coming up in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, one tradition from another school. Which one you taking and why?
Go on, Sam. You go.
Well, I have an honourable mention in the Midnight Yell, which is Texas A&M. So they have a tradition where they all basically meet up at midnight before and go through all like stories, chants, and things like that. And I think it is used kind of like as almost like a sorority entry sort of thing to understand Texas A&M's chants and things like that, as well as just being general. You know, it's like a what do you call it? What's it called before a game, which you tend to have outside the stadium? What's it called? Tailgate. It's like a tailgate, but pre-game tailgate in a way.
Yeah.
So that was my honourable mention, just because I do really like that idea. But for me, it's probably the Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech for me.
Yeah. That's. I feel like this is a very popular one that when I post it in the group chat the other day, and just said we've hit question for the mailbag. Gary responded with, and why is it Enter Sandman with Virginia Tech? Nick, do you have one that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I was looking at trying to find different ones that are sort of way out there, sort of not in the mainstream. And I found the May Dip, which is at the University of St Andrews, and that's on the 1st of May. All the students go and jump into the North Sea, and they brave the freezing North Sea. And it's supposed to bring good luck for all their exams that are coming up. Now that's very similar to the is it the Mirror Lake jump that Michigan do, and so something similar to that. Now the other thing that I noticed with traditions in St Andrews when I went down that sort of avenue was that they also have a one where older sort of academic students that are mature students that have done their degrees and what have you and are graduating mentor younger first year students, and they all end up having a fight on the college lawn with shaving foam. So I just think if the University of St Andrews can do two things like that, one just completely and utterly ludicrous, and one just I fancy both of those, and the fact that the water one is very similar to the lake jump that that Ohio and Michigan do, or so I would say something like that. But I certainly can't go against Enter Sandman. That's just something special.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of things sort of outside the box that aren't mainstream to most knowledge.
I
Yeah, I
do
think
I do quite like Iowa's one though, the
Hawkeye
wave.
Wave.
Yeah, I think that's a bit more sort of like wholesome and that, isn't it? Really, because it's obviously waving to a children's hospital. So it's a little bit more, a bit more to it than just a simple tradition, I suppose.
Yeah, I think. By the way, I'm just going to mention. Obviously, when a few weeks ago started doing the 138 days to Dublin, in fact, today about school, slacked on that the last few days. Need to catch up on a couple of days on this one. But the my fact of the day, because when Texas A&M came up, was that not only do they do the yell leaders yell practice, they have the yell leaders do the yell practice the night before a game. They also live stream it, that yell practice. So if it's 6 in the morning on a Saturday, if you ever wake up and think, God, there's nothing on TV at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, head over to YouTube and you can watch a live stream. And it happens at midnight. And if it's in Texas, that means they'll be 6 hours behind. So, it'll work out 6 a.m. You can just watch Texas A&M students yell for an hour on YouTube. That'll get you through your Saturday morning. And I posted something similar as well to Nick's one, where you chose the river jump. Um, Quite a few universities do this kind of thing. So Texas State, it started as students jumped into the San Marcos River in Texas when they graduated, cap and gown, everything, jump into the river. And then it turned into a thing where the football team also jumps into the San Marcos River when they become bowl eligible, which I think is really cool. And how the football team's kind of taking it on for themselves. I think Enter Sandman has to be. I think, yeah, Enter Sandman's the correct answer. I think the Hawkeye Wave is a great nod to the Hawkeye Wave as well. Um, One of the things I think with Texas A&M as a whole, though, is their tradition and history and pageantry. They get mocked a lot for it, but very few schools do that kind of pageantry quite like Texas A&M. And for I don't know, I think just as an outsider over here on this side of the pond, and as someone who kind of one of the things I love about college football is the pageantry. That's something that I've kind of I think gravitated to a little bit and really appreciated about them.
I mean, I think for me, not way before I got into college football, the only thing I knew about college before even knowing anything was the Ohio State marching band.
Yeah,
And the regardless of the university and what have you, the talent that is, and the planning, and the sheer coordination that every motherfucker on that pitch has to be in time, perfectly to the actual nth of a second, is just, for me, is mind blowing. I remember when they came over. The NFL was at Wembley. This was before Tottenham, um, and they brought the Ohio State marching band over, and they did Mick Jagger, they Rolling Stones, they did a London Bus, they did Buckingham Palace, and they were doing. And of course, you don't look at what's going on in front of you on the pitch. You're watching the screens because that's what you see, because obviously the cameras
yeah,
on top. Um, but yeah, I mean that's something for me. That's something special as well. That I do think that is an amazing talent and something very very unique.
yeah. Going to Dublin the first time and watching the marching bands make all the shapes, do all the different things was just
Yeah.
amazing. It was brilliant. Um, I realise I've not actually given my tradition. Now I'm not going to steal Sam's Enter Sandman. I'm not going to steal any of the one that Nick's done. I'm a bit of a hip hop head, right? I love my hip hop. I kind of grew up on it, so I'm gonna throw in there Wisconsin's "Jump Around" by House of Pain. Um, Camp Randall, 80,000 people, home and away fans who turn up bouncing as Jump Around comes on. I think is just it's amazing. I absolutely love it. Um, so for me, if I could take one, initial one would be Enter Sandman, but if I could pick another one, it would probably be Jump Around at some point as well. Although I will say I like. Right, let's beat around the bush. If any of you are listening to the podcast and have never actually seen our faces, I'm going to give you the shock of the year. We're all white on this podcast. We're all white people. And one thing that white people love is random indie songs that just for some reason slap. Right, the white people bangers, songs that get white people turned. Not very many songs do this quite like Mr. Brightside. Right. So I enjoy the fact that Michigan have the Mr. Brightside tradition as well. Um, every single one of us has dealt with singing this top of the lungs as they leave a club at night and the lights get ready to come on and it's the last song played. So I think I do want to throw out there, I enjoy this Michigan tradition as well. Which I got told, by the way, was in a discussion with a friend who's from Michigan. They were like, well, Michigan's had the tradition way before the UK ever did. I'm like, nah. Michigan started that tradition in 2016. I was in clubs in 2012, 2013, and singing that at the top of my lungs on the way out. So, um, anyway, any other traditions you want to give a special shout out to? Again, understanding we've got an episode about this in 3 weeks' time. So,
I think we move on to the next one because, like I say, we're going to be doing more on this
yeah.
in a future episode.
Okay, so next question from the mailbag is why haven't we seen more international games? I'm going to get the full question up. It was brought to us by there we go. By Ed Helinsky, sorry, Ed. Ed Helinsky on Twitter. Why haven't we seen more overseas college football games? The lack of interest or money? I've been to the Aer Lingus College Football Classic in Dublin and it's a fantastic experience. Does anyone want to weigh in this to start us off? Because I've got I know the answer.
I think the biggest part of it is the global appeal. And when we've seen, if we're talking about you know, the Union Jack Classic, there is still seats available.
Yeah.
And obviously, anyone who's in the UK who wants to go and watch college football, go and get your tickets to the Union Jack Classic. It is going to be a great event.
Hang on,
But
if you're on YouTube, join us and activate the kingdom.
But I do think that's a big thing. I think, when you think of a lot of these places, especially the colleges, it's all steeped in tradition. It's all steeped in, you going to the university, you experiencing it all, especially for some of these local areas, that is your team. If you take Auburn, for example, they don't have an NFL team. So to them, their team is Auburn. And it's not like the NFL, which is a lot more of a global monster than than college football. Although we do obviously have college fans in the UK and elsewhere.
I don't believe it. I've never seen it.
But I do think that plays a big part. It's just not as a globally recognized thing yet. I do think we are slowly getting there. And I think, if you're going to look at an outlier, I do think Ireland is an outlier. The Aer Lingus Classic has been extremely popular, sells out most years. So I do think there's a slight, argument to say that, well, if it can happen in Ireland, why can't it happen elsewhere? But I do think that the initial reason, or the biggest reason for me, or one of the biggest reasons, is around global appeal.
Excellent. Nick, do you want to answer at any point in this question?
I think I was just going to say to Sam, I think one of the reasons there are tickets still available at Wembley is the tickets are priced too high to
Well,
start.
there is that, yeah.
That's a completely different argument. I think you have to realise that even even when you look at the NFL, and they started international games in 2007, I want to
Yeah,
say. Is it?
2007.
So then they're 20 years down the line almost. And London's still only got three. All right, Madrid have got one, Germany's got one, Mexico's
Australia.
got one, Australia's got one. They are expanding it out, and they've already said their idea is to have 16 international games every season. But the fact is, it's a long process, and the desire is there because they saw how many people in Germany were making the trip to the UK every year to watch the NFL. So they said, well, maybe we can get one in Germany. So they've tried that, and that's been huge. And so I think the thing with college football is when it comes to an international game, an international appeal, college football is in its infancy. It's just a little toddler running around. You know, there's there needs to be a bit more time goes by and the interest needs to grow.
Yeah,
Um, and I think there's always been that thing about whether the London or Europe should have a league, or whether London and Europe should have a franchise in the NFL. I can't see London franchise, a franchise in London until they're ready to put a division over here.
yeah,
And you'll have a franchise in Germany and a franchise in London. But moving back to college, unless you're going to do something like, and I think I mentioned this earlier in the year, unless you're going to do something like let the NFL Academy start playing college football. Because at the moment, the NFL Academy covers people that are coming out of our high school at 16 to the age of 18 when they're the age of, university college level. And then the NFL Academy are trying to get their players get them a home somewhere.
yeah,
And, some players are successful, some players aren't. But, if the NFL Academy could have their own college team, that'd do so much for college football in the UK because you'd have a UK based college team. Now, so I think it just needs time, it just needs to continue its growth. Eventually, I don't think college football will be as big as the NFL on this side of the pond.
no,
I don't mean that in disrespect. I just think that's the way it is. But college football can hang on to the NFL's coattails and grow really well. It just takes time.
yeah. I mean, both of those are absolutely valid points as far as the global reach goes for college football. The NFL's got well ahead of just about every other possible sport in terms of growing football outside of the US and North America. The CFL wouldn't have this success no matter how hard they push. The UFL wouldn't. The Mexican Football League wouldn't. Um, you know, we, I mean, BAFA doesn't have the reach in the UK that the NFL has, or across, with all due respect to BAFA. So I think the global reach of the NFL is, but it's comparable to the likes of, it's the top level of talent. So like, yeah, I could go and watch Georgia. I mean, I could go watch whoever plays in a college football game, but only three, four of them players might go to the NFL, and I might ever get to watch them. May as well go watch them in a couple of years at Wembley when they're surrounded by other top level talent on the planet. Um, And I've kind of equated it to, and this is meant to be no disrespect to college football in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it's a compliment, even if it doesn't come across that way. The difference is going between Real Madrid and Barcelona to Stockport County and Grimsby, right? And because at the end of the day, the level of talent as a whole is not as good. Now, I think, and I'm sure you all agree with me that like where it's still more interesting watching college. College football is more
Pep
interesting.
Pep thinks it's more interesting to go to Stockport than watch Champions League football. So
Yeah.
that's
Um.
that's just the way it
Oh,
is.
well, if it's good, and if it's good enough for Pep, it's good enough for me. I'm not gonna make any qualms about that one. But yeah, the level of quality is diminished. I still think the level of excitement and interest and intrigue and the pageantry and everything else that comes along with it is still better. And you can argue from a football purist point of view that like, yeah, but like Barcelona Madrid is a load of prima donnas making way too much money going down, whatever. Stockport County versus Grimsby is for their games for the love of the game, man. Everyone's playing for the love of the game. Um, which is how college football, I think most people think it should be. You know, you're playing for the love of the game. You're playing for an opportunity later down the road. Um, so I think yeah, the NFL will always have a and then when we add into the fact that colleges are in communities, they're in families, they're in everything. A lot of that tradition and history comes from the connection that you have to that school, and that's something that I think to not to disparage any of us, but that's something we don't have, right? We can't have that. I don't have that connection to Michigan. My mum didn't go, my dad didn't go, my grand didn't go, my granddad didn't go. I don't know what it's like to be there in Ann Arbor on game day. I don't know what it's like to attend that university and really feel that extra connection. Now I can sit here and tell you that I'll happily stay up till 5 in the morning and watch this team play, even if they're losing. And we've all done that for our teams. And I think that it doesn't make us any less of a fan of the team. But there is that connection that I do think we miss out on, which you don't feel with the NFL. I don't feel like I miss out on a connection with the Lions, but I do feel like I miss out on some of that connection with, say, Michigan, with it being a pro sports team and all that sort of different stuff. But one of the things, sorry, that I wanted to add on to this one is I'll go back to our conversation with Thomas Hensey, our good friend Thomas Hensey of the Union Jack Classic, and the conversation that we had with him back in October. How many players are on an NFL roster?
53.
53.
53. And how many members of staff are on an NFL roster, roughly?
Probably that again.
Yeah, probably very fairly similar numbers.
Let's say you've got a traveling party of 130. It's not 130. I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say it's 130 that includes coaches, athletic trainers, doctors, all that sort of stuff. You've got your equipment to bring over the teams. Now, I would imagine that at this point in the history of the NFL playing at London, the communication technology is already just stored away in a cupboard in Wembley somewhere throughout the year, and they just reel out the wireless communication thing, turn it on, and then it goes. So they're not bringing that over every year. The roster alone in college football is nearly 100 at times, and you've got to bring all of them over. The staff numbers are considerably more than NFL rosters because you don't just have to bring the head coach, the coordinators, the position trainers, the athletic coaches, and the doctors. You have to bring counselors. You have to bring additional chaperone individuals. You have to bring certain other people along as well that you don't have to bring with an NFL roster. So not only is the roster that you're bringing over nearly double, the people that you're bringing over that aren't officially on the roster, there's a considerable more amount as well. So you've got like 50, 60 extra people that you're bringing along, plus that you've got to fly over, get accommodation for, put up for, feed, house, all that sort of stuff for the amount of time that they are over. Then you've got all the other welfare stuff. Now, I am aware that, now they've got the communication in the helmets in college football. the technology that they use in college football is not the same as the one they use in the NFL. It's a different system. It's a different company that makes them and all that sort of stuff. So do you know what you got to do now? You got to ship a whole new communication system over to Wembley, get that installed into Wembley as well, for example, and then you would have to do this the Allianz Arena. You'd have to do this in Rio de Janeiro. I mean, look earlier, the Rio de Janeiro game's been cancelled for Virginia and NC State. The logistics of bringing over two college football teams is ridiculous in comparison to the NFL. And while we have been very fortunate in the UK that Brett Yarmark has been so forthcoming and so enthusiastic and so involved in the process that, you know, I believe we've had a considerable amount of additional support from the Big 12 essentially to help. And we've had some of the weight of the Big 12 behind it. Look at how invested he was last year. Sorry, I realise I'm monologuing a lot here. But we've been very lucky to have a lot of this support come our way in terms of getting the Union Jack Classic up off the ground to make it work. But you don't have the weight of the NFL behind you making it happen. It's not a thing that the NFL are making happen. This is a thing that the Union Jack Classic are a separate business that are creating this all up and setting this up themselves, and schools agree to participate. Now you can be extremely lucky and get Arizona State and Kansas, who are also, like Brett Yarmark, very willing to engage, very excited about the opportunity, willing to put a lot of time and energy and resources into it. But that's not going to be the same for every school that you come up against who want to do that. Some of them are going to be like, we'll come over, but sort everything out for us, please. You're going to be the one to sort out. You're sorting out the accommodation. You're sorting out the equipment. You're sorting out this. You're sorting out that. Excuse me. So I think, yeah, there's a financial aspect, there's a global reach aspect, but there's also just the logistical aspect that is a nightmare. And if you couple that with the fact that you might not sell out a 60, 70, 80,000 seat stadium, it then becomes not worth it.
I think also it comes down to, you mentioned it a bit with the financial bit, is you don't necessarily, I mean, obviously there's 150 odd teams in college football in the FBS alone. And so far, I mean, again, and this is no disrespect to the teams that are coming over or have been over, there haven't been what you would probably class as the more global college teams involved in it. Obviously, I know Michigan were obviously linked with coming to Germany and all of that. But at the moment, you know, your Texases, your Ohio States, your Notre Dames, your Michigans, none of them are involved in a college football abroad. And I know a lot of that, you know, they've got their own, you know, especially with home games, they've got a lot of revenue that comes in, local revenue, ticket sales, blah, 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 TV rights and all of that, that all are going to impact if they decide to move abroad or to have a game abroad. And I think that with that, that's where a lot of your big fan bases are across the world in those sort of bigger teams. So again, it's, if they're not willing to be a participant within it, unless you are really into college football, you're probably likely not to be interested in, say, an Arizona State Kansas game. Like you're not going to have the same interest in it, and that can sometimes be a detriment as well as to why. I mean, if you get someone like Ohio State playing in the Aer Lingus Classic, you'd sell out within weeks, within minutes, even like that. I think that the drive there to see something as more globally known as Ohio State in a game that's international would draw in more people than like we say with. I mean, again, probably one of the big reasons for this year in why maybe a few more people are probably going to go to the Aer Lingus this year is because you have Bill Belichick there. Yeah. And that's obviously a big pull. So as long as you've got storylines and people that are big pulls, that's also going to drive people to want to go to these games and again elevate these international games. And I think unless you can get that, you're not necessarily going to have the same pull. So it's one of those sort of difficult things. Like with the NFL, obviously, the NFL, I think there is only 32 teams, and you could probably easily pull together at least 1,000 people that support each team in the UK alone, as well as people who are just generally interested in watching NFL games.
Yeah. No.
I mean, three years ago when Notre Dame were in Ireland, were in Dublin, and they played the Navy 3 years ago. That the amount of fighting Irish fans that travelled over to Dublin from from um, from the America was absolutely crazy. You could not move for an American accent. I mean, they reckon there was about 10,000 of them, and it was just absolute manic, and that was the sort of like you want that every year.
Yeah.
And you need to have, like Sam said, you need to have that story, that pull. You need to have something to suck everybody in. And for me, watching Notre Dame, watching the Fighting Irish in Ireland and everything else, that was the pull. That was here comes a big team. Here comes a big team, and with its pull. And I think that game still has the highest sort of attendance. But it's certainly, like Sam said, it's difficult to get those huge teams to give up home games. So you're then asking a smaller team to give up a home game. Well, then why should they? And so there's a lot of there's a lot of politics behind the scenes that go into this, and it's not just a simple. I don't think there's a simple few reasons why.
Yeah, it's not just that one reason. There's a number of like legitimate reasons why it's just not viable at the moment on a larger scale. And like I say, it's in its infancy. We're not saying that this is what we're all going to have. We're just going to have the UJC and the Aer Lingus Classic. There have been attempts to make it in Brazil. There have been attempts to bring it to Germany. So it is growing. It's just the start. It just needs time.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I want to say, I do think that's an important thing. So, like I say, when you look at the logistical aspects of it that I've brought up, and you look at the thing, they go hand in hand. They're not separate things. Again, like the logistical nightmares that will, again, we spoke to the guys over at the Union Jack Classic, and just the immense effort that they are going to just to make sure that the event can go ahead. It's a logistical nightmare. You have to be able to reap back some of that money. You have to be able to reap back that money. If you're gonna tank $10 million or £10 million or whatever it is every single year on this event, who's willing to do that for the love of the game? If I had that kind of money where I could lose £10 million and not be too bothered, I mean, it's still then like very few people have that money, but I also feel like you need to be able to make that money. And if the interest just is not there at all, you're not going to reap that money back. You're not going to get that money back. And that's not just the cost of bringing the teams over. It's the cost of hiring Wembley for a day. And you don't just hire Wembley for a day. Part of that deal has to come with the promo stuff that you do, where you go get to stand with Coach Leopold and Coach Dillingham on the field at Wembley. I was going to say turf then. No, it's Wembley. It's a pitch. It's a field on the pitch at Wembley. The deal to go and do those sort of things. It's an enormously expensive and logistical problem, and you do have to have that there. I want to say, I know, Nick, you were talking about the Fighting Irish coming over when FSU and Georgia Tech was there. I reckon at least 20,000 FSU fans alone had turned up. At least 20,000. a lot of them see this as, particularly with Ireland, because there is so much of a connection between the States and Ireland. Um, that so many people see it as like, that it's visiting for a lot of them, and their ancestral home, where a lot of the family goes back to Ireland. It's a huge thing to go back to Ireland for a lot of people
I
in the
spoke
States as well.
I spoke to a couple that had come over for the Notre Dame Navy game, and um I was, just it was in a, corner shop, and the next day morning after the game sort of thing, and the guy had a Notre Dame hat on, so I asked him, did he enjoy the game and what have you, and he said, yeah, and I said, are you flying home today? And they were on a 7 week tour of Europe. This was their start. They were touring Europe. They'd flown over to Ireland. They'd done the college classic. Then they were heading to London, and they were going to do all the London sites and what have you. Then they were going to France and Germany, and they were going for a proper European tour with
Yeah.
them, And their plan was they were flying out of Spain. I think he said, "Oh, we fly out of Madrid home in like 7 weeks." And I'm like, "Fair play to you, you know."
Did
And that
at,
was just a husband and his wife going on holiday for best part of 2 months.
at which point you turn around and say London's crap, should have done Manchester. Um,
Oh,
but no, I think what we saw that with the FSU Georgia Tech game. Me and Mrs. Fletch, when we were at Liverpool John Lennon Airport, were before the game going out to Dublin on the Friday, we're talking to a family of Kansas State fans who were just like, we've just done a week in England. We're now going to just go do a week tour in Ireland after this game. So they're making a lot of them make time of it, and it's a great opportunity for a lot. I mean, Calvin Johnson was at the Georgia Tech game, and him and his mates were just. He was saying at the time, he was just like, "Go, there's a load of great golf courses in Ireland. We'll go." There are, I think, was it the FSU Georgia Tech game? I swear we were talking to someone who was just like, "I'm not even going to the game. All my mates are going to the game. I just came along for a golfing trip."
yeah, but yeah, that
Yeah,
was in the bar, wasn't it, in the
yeah.
morning? Yeah,
And I'm like, it's that kind of thing. It's amazing. So, oh, look, we'll speak about the boys. There's a fair few different reasons why. Um, and at the moment, while look, the Aer Lingus Classic has done it and done it really well. We'll see what goes on with the Union Jack Classic. Obviously, everyone in this room and everyone in the AAW really wants the Union Jack Classic to succeed, and we can't wait to see it come to fruition in September and see everything that comes of it. And we hope to see it again next year and the year after and the year after and the year after. That's obviously goes without saying, but what we're aware of is it's spinning plates. This. And every single plate is very, very erratic, and you are on your own. And there's 10 more extra plates than there are for an NFL game, and there are less people helping you to do it. So, and every single one of them, by the way, is a really expensive Fabergé plate, right? And in comparison to others. So, there's just so much that goes into it that very few people, I think, are willing to take on that risk. And then you look at some of the backlash that these games do get from people in the States. And I'm going to leave you with one last stat before I go on to the last couple of questions. Michigan were due to play Western Michigan in Germany this year, right? Big House is the biggest stadium in the States, 107,601. The average Michigan ticket price is somewhere between $151 and $350. Now let's call that 250. If Michigan sold out at an average of $250 a ticket, they would make $27 million in tickets alone for one game. One game. Now that's just on tickets. Let's say the bars beforehand. How much business do they get out of the game?
yeah.
Let's say it's a big game. Now, Western Michigan is a really good one because no matter what, that's money that's staying in state. that they were about to take to Germany. That's money staying in state. That's people traveling from from Western Michigan to Ann Arbor who would also be spending money in state because they can drive. So they can go out for meals before the game. They can drive, stop at a service station, get a 400 quid Popeyes worth it, and then go to the game, right? And it's a lot of money that you are also playing with, and not just the school's money, local business money as well. Anyway, it's been a long time on this topic. Move on to the last couple of questions that have been submitted. Name one school that you would love your program to do a home and home series with.
Oh, I will go with Notre Dame versus Old Dominion. Just because it's my team versus the team that I picked in the Sun Belt. We all picked a Sun Belt team when we started this way back when, and I just think, having seen Old Dominion versus Georgia State, and having seen Notre Dame, I would love to see both teams play each other. So, purely selfish, I would like to see Notre Dame and Old Dominion.
Sam, do you have an answer for this one?
Well, I kind of went with it. I had a couple of honorable mentions, mainly based on obviously the obvious one would be something like I don't want to say Oklahoma. It has its own special thing. Texas A&M would be an interesting one. Just obviously we have the rivalry with them.
There's the conversation happening right now, isn't it? Where Texas and Texas A&M could play each other.
Was around the Texas versus Texas Tech.
Oh yeah.
Now that would be an interesting one, given all the recent spitting of dummies out from what Sark said around Texas Tech's Cape Walk schedules and all of that. But the one I chose, and this was mainly because of just how globally massive it would be Texas versus Notre Dame. I just think that if you had two games, one at Texas and one in Notre Dame, I just think it'd be absolutely massive. The TV rights you get with it, the game would be fantastic, and Notre Dame would actually get to play a decent team for once.
I so respect that shot. I so respect it. Nick, not got a rebuttal there.
I'm rising above it.
As you should. So I had a bit of a long think about this one before. This was submitted about an hour or so before we started recording, so it was quite a new one to think about. I will also go with Notre Dame because Michigan and Notre Dame was quite a historic rivalry throughout the years and has not been played for quite some time. Obviously, famously relatively close to relatively close to each other. Like, ask a British person to do that drive, and it's like, I haven't got all bloody day. Ask an American person to make that drive, and they'll just be like, I'll be there in it. Yeah, sweet. I'll travel that way to get to the shop. It's fine. Relatively close to each other. It's been a historic rivalry throughout the years that just hasn't been played in a long time. Or I would even have you played Michigan State in the last few years? I can't remember if you have. I feel like you have. Or am I inventing it in my head?
No, we played that really, really quality Northern Illinois team.
Yeah.
And we were the last team to beat the current champions, the Indiana. But I don't remember Michigan State off the top of my head.
Last time we played Michigan State was 2017.
Right, okay.
You beat them 38-18. I was surprised that you didn't go for Notre Dame versus Miami, given the
They play each other anyway,
we
don't they?
played that last year and we're playing it this year, so it seems a silly one to pick.
I mean, it
But it
is a
does give
tough.
me a chance to get the shirt out. I'll be honest.
Well, the ACC ties for Notre Dame as well help that one to be more of a thing. I'm thinking like just general. Officially, it's non-conference, but I'm thinking proper non-conference. Like there's no
Yeah.
ties to that conference, no nothing. So I mean, I like that, and I say Michigan Notre Dame has always been quite a historic rivalry. So I would like to see that. Only had 44 meetings in total though. Last one was in 2019. Michigan won that one. So, in fact, no, I think we should leave it there, to be fair. Leave it. Best team won. Best team owns the series. It's fine. Um, Going to the second to last question. Two schools that aren't your own to do either a home and home matchup, or you can have them do a neutral site game. Neither of them can be your team.
Well, I went with distance, and I was thinking a neutral site in the middle because I've picked some big distances. So I picked one of three. You guys can pick between yourselves. One of three games: Boston College versus Hawaii. Pick somewhere you want to play that in the middle. Washington versus Miami, or Hawaii versus Northern Illinois. They were the three games that I picked. All are well over 4,000 miles in travel. So somewhere in the middle would be a neutral site. I don't know, AT&T Stadium, for example, in Dallas for one of those Boston or the Boston College Hawaii or the Washington Miami games.
Somewhere.
Um,
So
but yeah,
somewhere.
I was just thinking for distance, just because you don't see the colleges making those trips. That
Some
because ludicrous.
somewhere in the Bay Area, Kyle Shanahan's listening to this episode and go, if you think that's distance, you should see what we have to do this year. Um,
Oh.
but
What a petty little man.
I'm gonna say, all for Brock Purdy to be potentially murdered by Miles Garrett. Like that's
It is a
not.
real, and him and Aaron Donald both at him. That'd be
Oh,
absolute
Thing
sin.
is,
it,
Kyle Shanahan is not that little. He's well over 6 foot. He just looks little around all the people that he is. He's
the look.
not actually that small.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but he's petty as anything.
I'm
Well,
gonna say
that
he's a
yeah.
little. No, I'm not gonna call him that. Um, is there any one of them, Nick, that you really, really fancy?
The one for me that I really like is Boston College versus Hawaii because that is literally one end to the other. So I would, if it was my choice, I would pick that one.
Not what like a San Diego State versus Yale or something that in the FCS and just have them go to play Maine.
Yeah, I mean they're the sort of things I stuck to the FBS, but yeah, they're the sort of things that you could think of. Um, but it's just even the sheer when we talk about it's like we talk in the football league. The longest trip in the football league is what is Plymouth versus Hartlepool, I think. Or I think
Hmm.
that's the longest trip in the football league.
Yeah.
Or so it's like,
No,
and that's no.
it'd be Plymouth versus Newcastle would be the furthest.
Yeah, but Newcastle in the Premier League, not in the Football League.
But yeah, but I don't think Plymouth and Hartlepool are in the same league together anymore.
I don't think they are, no. But you're still talking like a 700-mile round trip. And we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands. And that's something that I thought that'd be quite you don't see it often, so that's why I picked it.
Do you know what I think would be a hilarious matchup that's similar to what you've put out there, Nick? Is something like a Boston College. I don't know. No, because they're so far apart. One of them's on the Pacific coast, one of them's on the Atlantic coast, and just never be a matchup you'd think of that had happened. Something like a Boston College and a Cal Golden Bears. Oh wait, fuck, both in the same conference apparently. Which still is just I'm putting that out just again just to remind you how stupid conferences are these days. That Cal and Boston College, exact same prospect there that you're talking about with getting these teams against each other. They're in the same fucking conference. Utterly ridiculous. Anyway, so Sam, have you got any matchup?
I had a very similar one, but it was Hawaii versus the Raging Cajuns, just because then I'd get to see I'd get to see the Raging Cajuns play, and also B, I kind of like Hawaii as a location for someone like the Raging Cajuns to have to travel all the way to Hawaii to play.
Yeah. I'm thinking of something that like you need to be able to get a good name out of it as well. So like anything involving Hawaii and having the Rainbow Warriors, you set up there for a good name for a bowl game, I think. And then having the
Rainbow Warriors versus the Raging Cajuns.
the Rainbow Cajun Bowl. I don't know. I don't think it quite works, but we can workshop it. Damn it, I can't say Kennesaw State because that is technically my team. I'm gonna be smart about this one. I'm gonna play this game properly. I think a game like a Georgia USC that you just don't see. I just don't. I can't. George. Why can't I spell? Oh my good God. Right, here we go. They've only met 3 times in history. The last time, 1960. USC, historically a very, very, very good program, always been in and around some of the top echelon of college football. Then they moved conference and no longer became that, but we'll see what they become over the next couple of years in the Big Ten. Fun fact though, they played 3 times. USC have won all 3. And Georgia have put up a combined 3 points against USC. 1931, USC won 60-0. 1933, it was 31-0. And then in 1960, it was 10-3. So overall, 3 games, it's 101-3 to USC. Last question, and this is one that's kind of been submitted internally in the Fletch household. You have just been appointed as president of the AAW University. Your first job is to find a mascot for our football team and athletics department. Which mascot you choosing? And bonus points if you can come up with something that doesn't exist, that isn't a mascot really in college football.
Well, I created something, but it was more than just a mascot. It was basically just the whole team. It was the whole franchise, well, the whole like university.
AAW Apex.
See, I being English and whatever, and we would be an English university.
We're not doing Bulldogs. We're not being them people.
No. The symbol of England is the lion, is it not?
Depends. Some people say the lion. Some people say the bulldog. But yeah.
There you go. The AAW University Lion.
I'm okay with this being the Lions.
I would have one of those jackets as well.
Oh, looks good to be fair.
You want to get that jacket? I will have one.
Now
there you
listen,
go. That's your job for the next few weeks before we go to the Aer Lingus Classic is to get those jackets.
Varsity jackets, great.
Varsity jackets.
Now listen, I'm all for being the AAW Lions. I don't know what it is. There's just something about the Lions that just seems really appealing to me as an individual. I just so thought you were going to do like, what are they called now? The lads with the Marge hats, black hair, hat, fluffy hat.
Oh, the beef eaters.
Beef eaters, that's the
Oh,
one.
no, not beef eaters, but
No.
the beef eaters
Yeah.
are what? It's not beef eaters. It's
No, the beef eaters are the one who wear them like red jackets and walk around.
The
guards,
the Royal Guards,
Royal
Guards.
I thought you wanted to seem like a Royal Guard or a beef eater. To be fair, would have
you could have the Royals as the
the Board of Regents has just met and we reject the term Royals for our but I don't know, I like both ideas. Officially. Now I know Georgia Tech have it as a mascot / part of the logo, but this is not the name. I think we go bees.
No, because no. Because bees are a bit meh. Just because
I mean, let's be honest. They die every time. They die when they,
you sting something and they die. That's not what you want from you.
We need a whole new team every week.
Not every bee does that, by the way.
Well, I
can't remember which.
As a generalization.
Yeah, most bees do that.
But when I looked at the animals that symbolize England, it gave me the red squirrel, the red fox, a lion, and a lion, and I was like, yeah, we'll go with the lion. We'll go with the lion.
I mean, it's either lions, bulldogs, or you could have stags. I suppose is probably the other one because it's like the
but if we go around calling each other stags, I think there are implications on this one that may or may not be accurate, but that we don't want to be out there. Our team, the female teams, be called the Vixens, and then just throw ourselves fully into that one.
Oh no, it'd be stags and does, wouldn't it?
You and I were thinking very, very, those.
You were thinking of foxes.
Nope, I was not. Sam, I love your innocence, and I intend to keep it that way. We'll go.
I know what you were going with Vixen.
I know where he was going with it.
Some would say I cooked with that one, but I didn't. I don't know.
If I may, we've already got a song worked out, haven't we? Because we just changed it from 3 lions to 100 lions. 100 lions on your shirt. Because the team's 100 players.
See, I will say this though. I think we can't just be. I think we'd have to be something that incorporates and encapsulates the entire United Kingdom. I don't want to just be the English one. I want us to incorporate and encapsulate the entire United Kingdom. And at the end of the day, we have a great relationship with our Irish counterparts, and we're part of the UK and Irish College Football Media Top 25 Voters Group. So I think we need to. I think we'll just be a pint. The AAW pints, and we just have one big bear mascot running around.
What are you going to call it?
Pinty. I don't know.
I was thinking keggy, to be fair. running around with a keg.
Stella. Call her Stella.
Oh. The thing is, if you're going to go with something that encapsulates the whole of Britain, then you'd have to say it'd be the English Bulldog, because it is the British icon. If you take it one animal, obviously you don't have to have animals, but they are technically. But there's too many bulldogs; they're everywhere.
Yeah, but I say that's it. So I think we go with another animal that does genuinely encapsulate the entirety of the United Kingdom, and we become the pigeons. It's not glamorous.
Look, if you're going to get those jackets made, I'll be the pigeons.
Listen, right?
There you go.
The Rats.
The AEW Flying Rats.
But I will put like we'll have to deal with if we become part of the college football ecosystem. In order to get games to happen, we've got to bring college football teams over here all the time. We're going to piss a lot of people off. So we could be the pigeons because no one likes us, but we're just going to be there anyway, messing up your day. So I think that is it. That is everything for this week. I can't remember exactly what we've got planned for next week. I know there's something in the works. I'm not exactly 100% sure. Pre-warning to anyone in the States. In 2 weeks' time, England are playing in the World Cup. And I don't want to have to monologue for an hour and a half, so I don't think we're going to do an episode on that Wednesday. So in 2 weeks' time, we won't have an episode. We will have one next week, and we will have one the week after that. So with a guest on. Unless we can figure out how to get one in that week without being on the Wednesday. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Hit up the free to join Discord, and we will see you next week for another episode of College Football UK.